My girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, tried to trick me into getting her pregnant.
I broke up with my GF on New Year's Day after she tried to trick me into getting her pregnant. We would have been together 7 years this year. We had discussed that we would eventually have a baby but agreed a bit later in time. I had just got a new job which is a trainee role and requires a lot of stress and dedication. I had lost my granddad, who was effectively the father figure in my life, a few months back. Ideally, I wanted to compete this trainee role, as if I failed any aspect of it I would no longer have a job, and she was also changing jobs. I was happy to settle down and have a baby once I knew I was qualified. It would have been end if this year at the latest. But then just before Christmas I found out she had had her birth control device removed without telling me to try and get pregnant before the time we had agreed. I love her more than anything, but I have no trust in her anymore. I don't know how to feel about it. Reproductive coercion is a form of abuse. You don't deserve to be in an abusive relationship. You were right to leave. This honestly opened my eyes to the relationship I left. I had thought I wouldn't get pregnant from unprotected sex and my period, and my ex knew that I was wrong, but continued to do it because it felt good and it wouldn't be a big deal if we got pregnant. He confessed that after we broke up, and said he would have been happy if we had been pregnant, even though I was adamantly against having another child before marriage. Wow. Thank God that's over, and definitely should move on from that relationship. Have her take a pregnancy test to be sure she's not pregnant now too. Reproductive coercion is a form of abuse, legally speaking, only if you are a woman. She could have violently assaulted him and gotten pregnant. He is legally responsible even if it is proven and she is convicted of assaulting him. Literally 13 boys who have been assaulted can and have been held responsible for child support. Good thing he caught her. This would have been a disaster otherwise. Yup, you don't even have to have sex. There is a pretty famous case of a guy receiving oral and the woman keeping his stuff in her mouth until he left, and then freezing it. She then used it to artificially inseminate herself. When the baby was born, she sued for child support and the court sided with her. Fast forward, he sues her for using his stuff in a way he didn't want. Her lawyer argued that the man had gifted it to her and she could use it any way she wanted like any other gift, and the court sided with her. They did say he could sue for emotional distress or other like things, but because a baby had come into the world, he was responsible regardless of the context. You did exactly what you needed to do, both for yourself and for any unborn child that may have occurred. I didn't know until after my father died, but my mother did the same thing to him. It affected me for a long time, because I was left wondering if my father really wanted me or if he was putting on a good face about it. On a side note, I've worked through those feelings, and every time it comes in conversation now, either me or my husband turns on Sabotage by the Beastie Boys in commemoration. Sorry to hear you had something similar with your parents. I never really had much to do with my dad growing up, and he never really wanted me. So obviously I don't want to be like that, and be there for any children I have. I've just looked up the lyrics to Sabotage. It's been ages since I've heard that song. It is very apt. That is wrong on several levels. Glad you broke up with her. She can find some other sucker to knock her up. Just make sure that when she comes back to you in a month or two claiming she's pregnant, you insist on a paternity test. Who knows if she's not beneath going out and having unprotected sex to get pregnant and to come back to you claiming you're the father. You were right to leave her. You should also start using a form of birth control that you control, condoms or vasectomy. I would suggest the former. Do not go back to her. She has broken the relationship. You did right. She has no right to do that without your consent. If she come back later on, saying she is pregnant, make a paternity test. She can be capable of sleeping with random guy to get pregnant and try to pin the child on you. My fiance's ex-wife did the same type of thing. She didn't have an IUD, so no IUD to sneakily remove, but she tracked her ovulation, would only sleep with him during her fertile window. He didn't catch on to this for a couple years. Lol, bought several storage totes worth of baby clothes, had an Instagram account for their non-existent child, and would actively shame him for not wanting a kid yet. You absolutely dodged a bullet, man. You may love her, but the dishonesty and disregard for your feelings is a huge red flag. My guy got out of his emotionally and mentally abusive relationship after 8 years and would absolutely tell you the same thing. This had my skin crawling. Someone needs to tell her sex won't make them love you and baby won't make them stay. Entrapment like that actively pushes people away. And for those commenting to defend her, if this was a woman posting about a man reversing a vasectomy in secret, y'all would be calling for torches and pitchforks. This cannot be preached enough. I wish parents had told the kiddos in my daughter's middle school. My mouth dropped open the first time I saw a 12, 13-year-old waddling down the damn hallway. They wanted to keep their boyfriend of less than a week from breaking up with them. One girl even told my daughter she used her grandmother's sewing needles to poke holes in the condoms she bought for her BF to wear. This is why you can't rely on anyone else to protect your reproductive rights. If you don't want a baby right now, use condoms every time. Birth control sometimes fails. The safest way to ensure you're not going to get someone pregnant is to do your part to have safe sex. Maybe take this experience as a lesson. A relationship without trust is nothing, and she completely blew up any chance of trusting her ever again. It's okay to be sad and mourn the relationship you thought you had, but there's no way to go back to it. My husband's grandmother tried to get me to quit taking my BC and not tell my husband because he wasn't ready to have kids after 3 years of marriage. I could not believe her. I would never try and trick someone into having a baby with me. Now we've been married 12 years, together 14.5, and have a 5-year-old and 17-month-old. That's a huge breach of trust for her to trap you into that, especially when you had discussed waiting until this year is over. Reproductive coercion is a pretty fucked up thing to do to another human being. And one that you supposedly love too. If she's willing to do that, she's capable of evil shit. I wouldn't trust her. You were right to dump her. Thank your lucky stars you figured this out before she had you trapped. Do you use another form of protection as well, i.e. condoms? It can take months and months to become fertile again after coming off birth control, so maybe she thought she was still being safe but speeding up the process for when you're both ready. I'm a very on the fence person, so sorry if I'm wrong. Sounds like an attempt to nudge you into a proposal. 7 years is a long time to be with someone, and most women who want to get married don't want to wait 7 years to be asked. I guess she wanted you to finally commit to her. She deserved to be left. She was dishonest about it, and it is abuse. She should have discussed this with you. I get that she's getting older and that internal tick gets louder and louder. It's incredibly risky to be pregnant after your mid-30s, but men are fertile for much longer, so they don't get the urgency sometimes. She showed you that she doesn't trust your judgment by doing this behind your back. A discussion about how there is never a right time and how she feels should have been had. I hope you find someone that you can trust. Even if you know she's on birth control, wrap it up until you are ready to actually have kids, because you could run into another crazy like this. Birth control is your responsibility too. I'm with the op that this is inappropriate if one person is expecting Planned Parenthood. You both need to be on the same page on having the kid, or else it's not consensual. Talking about wanting kids someday is not the same as actively trying to have a kid. I had something similar going on, I think. I was sort of seeing a woman who was adamant that she didn't want kids and insisted she couldn't. We screwed around for a bit, but it didn't work out. Then a year later I find out she already had 2 kids from 2 different fathers, collecting checks. I feel like I narrowly avoided a terrible fate. It's not a good foundation to build a relationship on. No, when men did this it's stealthing, but she definitely just stealthed him. She took her birth control out without his knowledge. That's not consent either. That's also technically sexual harassment. That's tough. It would be absolutely unforgivable for me too. I wish you the best. Don't ever think of forgiving her. If there's no trust, there's nothing. She was about to sucker you into life of alimony and children grown without 2 parents. I personally view this as rape. She had sex with you under the terms that it was intended recreationally, not to get pregnant. She could have stolen the rest of your life with her piss-poor behavior. Just a question. Did she have an IUD? IUDs do need to be replaced every few years or so. I live in a metropolitan area with a lot of medical options, and my OB staff has been telling me how IUD placement has been difficult due to COVID-19. My office confirms placement via ultrasound, and because of social distancing restrictions they can only have a certain number of people per square foot. So any IUD placement has to be done at the main office because the US suite is the largest and can fit everyone. So out of 5 satellite offices only one can place IUDs now. I very much think she should have told you that she was getting it out. She can be fertile right away according to Planned Parenthood, so you could use condoms or something else in the meantime, and think it's very strange that she didn't talk to you about it. I did catch a comment with your ages and if you aren't ready for kids but she wants to try now, you did right to break up with her. And I say this as someone who's having an awesome pregnancy at the ancient age of 37. Personally, I feel this should be a criminally prosecutable offense. In the same way I totally agree women should have the right to abort a child, or keep it if they see fit as it's their body, a man should also have the right to not be coerced into reproduction unknowingly. My brother-in-law's first wife did, and that's how he has 2 kids. He either caught her hiding them or was cleaning and found them. Anyway, she would drop them behind the dresser. Like, so weird. Anyway, he found all these B.C. pills and she admitted that's how she got pregnant with the first 2. So messed up. Sexual coercion is wrong and in some cases, illegal. However, if you've both discussed children and you're at an age where fertility begins to dwindle and you've been together for that long without committing to that choice or marrying her, maybe she was searching for commitment. Not that this was an appropriate way to do it at all. I'm just being a devil's advocate here and saying there seems to be an underlying issue. So IUDs have to be removed every few years so they don't become implanted or cause issues. Was there a reason she had it removed? Did she say it was because she was trying to pull the goalie, or are you just assuming? I wonder if it was time to take it out. How long did she have it in? If it was in for 4 or 5 years, I'd say, maybe it was just time to have it removed. Did you have real evidence? She had already had it replaced a couple of years ago. It wasn't time to be replaced. I found out she had it removed whilst browsing on Twitter, and she admitted what she had done later when she realized I knew and had a discussion about it. You didn't do anything wrong by leaving her. You had believed and trusted in her to be honest, which should be expected in the relationship. When she did her decision, she basically proved she only cared about she wanted and not you and how you would feel after agreeing when you both wanted to have children. She could have just asked and try to convince you so you would at least know she wants have children much early. That's abusive and wrong of her to do. A baby should be a consensual commitment. It would be one thing if it was an accident, but for her to trick you into a responsibility that major would be wrong and impact both you, your relationship, and possibly even the baby. You did the right thing by leaving. I had a manager once who already had 2 kids with his wife. He was adamant he didn't want any more, but she really wanted another one. Anyways, she ended up getting pregnant even after she told him she was on birth control. When he announced the news, the atmosphere at work was really awkward cause we all knew how much he did not want another one. I don't know how this isn't classed as some form of rape. It's truly disgusting that there are women out there who lie and deceive people like this. But then if the man were to leave, they'd be expected to pay child support for the rest of their life. It's truly a mad world. Anyway, she's trash and should never, ever, ever be trusted again. Sorry you got caught by a wrong one. But normal people do not behave like this. You definitely made the right decision to make her an ex. I do not know why someone would trick another to have a baby and hope they stay. People are sick. This destroy the kid's mental well-being. I was raised by a single mom and I know what it feels like to have a father who did not want you. Although my case isn't like yours, but in this age and time people think having a kid or giving amazing sex will make a man or woman stay. She should just have been patient. It also depends on your assurance through your years together. Anyways, still from your point of view that was overboard of her, but also we do not know her own side of the story to make judgments. Anyways, people should think about this children that did not ask to be born. There is a reason why a child needs both parents. If that is really the case, then she deserved to be left, but what do we know? Just saying. This isn't okay, it's a calculated manipulate move. I think she needs therapy and you guys need a serious conversation about this, and you need to seriously think about whether or not you really want her in your life. Yeah, this is a tough one. On one hand, I think you should forgive her, work past this, and have one when you're ready. I have a daughter, and her mom is dead now, died 4 years ago on the 26th of this month, and we had the baby during a really rough patch in my life. When we found out, it was not a happy experience for me. It was devastating, mostly because I was in a hole I needed to dig myself out of, and I now had a 9-month timer attached to where if I wasn't squared away by her birth, I'd never get on top of things, and in a way I was right. It's been a struggle for the last 7 years, especially the last 4 since my daughter's mother died. Point being of my rambling, if you have a plan to be secure before you have your baby, the best thing you can do for your future family is 100% be financially secure and healthy when that baby is born. If you do decide to take her back, which you probably should, you need to explain to her the importance of being financially secure for the baby's arrival. That type of stress, struggling constantly with a kid around, is what sinks and destroys relationships with ease. But if you're sound, money-wise, starting a family will be so much easier, and all the little things that come with it won't be so overwhelming. Don't listen to those saying to trash the 7-year relationship you've got. Sit down and talk with her, and work through this. The fact you've been together 7 years and are planning to start a family shows that getting past this bump in the road is warranted. I don't know what type of birth control she had, but something's it takes a few months to a few years before you can have the ability to have children after it is removed. I don't know her intentions, but def should be using condoms regardless. Sorry for your situation, my dude. What do you want advice on? What do you mean you don't know how to feel about it? Are you saying that you are so out of touch with your emotions that you want internet strangers to decide for you? My advice is to post this in off my chest because this is event. Men pretty much always have the absolute power to avoid pregnancy. Don't shoot your cum in there. If you're going bareback, and not withdrawing, you are kinda accepting that accidents might happen. That's my opinion, and this situation is not remotely comparable to rape. Women pretty much always have the absolute power to avoid pregnancy. Don't get cum shot there. Obviously, but do you see how stupid your comment was? Last year I read about a guy who was planning a divorce because his wife tampered with her birth control and she got pregnant with their 3rd child. I get that it was wrong, but my heart just broke for the baby being born into a broken family. It just seemed so extreme to me. One of my coworkers' ex got pregnant from him and then broke up before Christmas. It broke him for most of the year. Granted, he has other issues, and this set him back. What was her response? She said she did it as we were both getting older and she really wants a baby. I'm 32, she's 30, and thought it might take years to get pregnant. So she did it to start trying and hoped I would be okay with it if she did get pregnant, as she thought I would be a good dad. It is never okay to get pregnant against your partner's will. Ever. I had one baby and I was fitted for a diaphragm. I then became pregnant with my second one and discovered my ex had been poking holes in my diaphragm with a needle. He wanted me barefoot and pregnant and always serving him. Backfired. I got a divorce and sole custody of both kids. Procreation coercion is a form of abuse. Believe it or not, you dodged a huge bullet. You had every right to break up. That's a huge breach of trust on her part. I'm sorry you had to have a relationship end like that. This happened to me decades ago. I was able to talk her into abortion, fortunately. This form of abuse is as old as the world. Extremely common. Definitely stop dating her. I broke up with my GF on New Year's Day after she tried to trick me into getting her pregnant. Good. Leave her fraudulent ass behind. Fuck her. That's all I have to say. As long as you're out of that relationship and stay away from her is a good thing. Glad you didn't get her pregnant. She tried to rape you, because reproductive coercion is sexual abuse. I'm so happy you got out in time. Please be careful. All the best.
Thank you for watching. And if you are new, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Don't forget to like and comment. That will help us continue.